Hello, everybody, and welcome to Athletic Definition. I am your host, Coach Ray Z, and this is episode, I believe, 113. Kind of lost track. I like to usually edit right away and release the episode, but this time I'm going to kind of wait. I'm letting them marinate on Fireside, and then I'm going to release 3 episodes for my podcast listeners. So I hope you enjoy. Today, I'm going to be covering sports and fitness trends, some things that you won't hear about on ESPN. Make sure you stick around at the very end. I got this pretty wild story involving Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert Downey Jr., Dennis Rodman, Shaquille O'Neal, 30 naked women. So we're going to get started off with, since kind of Friday, we'll go Flashback Friday, an old star named Jean-Claude Van Damme. And this is when he was filming the movie Kickboxer. There's a UFC fighter called Benicio Verdum. One time he fought, he may still be fighting as well. I didn't realize it until he came out on this podcast. It's in Brazilian Portuguese, but I read the bottom of they translated it. So I read the podcast basically, and him and another fighter named, what was his name? Jones, I think. A couple people were in that movie it was called Kickboxer Vengeance, which I didn't even know they made. And I guess he was in there, and I remember hearing about this, back in the day about Jean-Claude Van Damme. He said that he had a big ego, that he was full of ego, that there was this young kid there, and he just went and kicked him full blast for no reason. He says he never really found out why, but that one thing he could tell that Van Damme was skilled. So it wasn't like he did it on accident. He said after he kicked the young kid and the kid started like sweating, and that he didn't even apologize to him at all. And that he was thinking, man, if he would do that to me, I would knock his ass out. And I believe it. There's a difference between, TV martial arts, movie martial arts, and real martial artists. Van Damme was known to do the splits. So within a lot of women that I know liked it. He'd be doing the splits all the time. He was kind of like I guess like a sex symbol for, not to me, but I remember at the time, and then at the time he battled like Steven Seagal, who's the other martial artist movie star. And he uses Hapkido, and at least in his movies, the chokes and arm breaks were more realistic than Van Damme's kicks and movies. Have always just been more for to make it look good, to make it look pretty, but doesn't mean it's an actual effective one. Regardless, those kicks are very powerful, and for him just to kick someone on the set for no reason, with plenty of witnesses, I think that's pretty uncalled for. So, I didn't have time to look in to see if there's other reports of Van Damme being like that, but according to former champion Verdum, that is what happened on the set of Kickboxer. And this week I think it'll probably start next week, but we're closing to the NBA Finals. The Dallas Mavericks just got eliminated by the Golden State Warriors, and I'm excited for the finals. I think it's going to be Boston the way it's looking. I hope it's Miami. Miami really just kind of laid a goose egg with Jimmy Buckets Butler. The way he made it to the NBA, his journey to the finals. He made it to the finals during the bubble in 2020, and then they got Lowry, who won a championship with Toronto when they had Kawhi Leonard. And then they also have that other guy, Hero, which they're pretty good. And I wasn't expecting them after Jimmy Butler got hurt in the previous game, and they still won, for them just to get basically embarrassed by Boston, in my opinion. And unless that game is today at 5:30. So if Miami loses, that's it. It's over. The NBA Finals will get started sooner. Between Boston and Golden State, I'll take Golden State all day. I believe the Lakers, with that previous championship, just surpassed Boston for having the most NBA titles in the history of the NBA, maybe by one, or maybe they just tied. So I definitely don't want to see Boston with the most titles. Nothing against, the city of Boston, but growing up, even though I wasn't a Laker fan, just the rivalries of Kevin McHale and Larry Bird and Robert Parrish, and then later on with Kobe Bryant and Paul Gasol and Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. So it's a long history, and just as a fan, I don't want to see the Celtics win another championship. I would like to see Curry get MVP. I think they got knocked a lot. Klay Thompson got hurt. Green was hurt for a while. They went, I think, like 4 or 5 seasons straight going to the NBA Finals, and then they missed the playoffs for 2 years. In the meantime, everyone's saying that, KD, if it wasn't for KD, Kevin Durant, that Golden State wouldn't, have won their championships and that he's a real star. But, Curry won before KD, and KD hasn't won since. They got eliminated. So I would like to see KD. I mean, Stephon Curry win, play good. I think for the Splash Brothers, for that dynasty that they're building, it would be incredible. And, he's not like, he really put a hamper, like, for example, in LeBron James' legacy, such a small guy, who's not like physically imposing in that manner, to go back to the NBA Finals once again. So to me, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to the game today. So far, some of the games have been blowouts, so they're not really been that exciting. So I'm hoping at least the finals will be. And then moving on to story number 3, Ric Flair. Woo! He is now 73 years old, and he will be coming out of retirement to have one final match, which will be 50 years from his wrestling debut. I saw some footage of him. I just forgot he retired so long ago from the WWE. They did this big tribute, and he hasn't been active. He's been retired, but he's coming out of retirement. And when you look at him and what he's doing with the battle ropes and in the ring, he said he had a conversation with over 40 doctors, and he said he didn't necessarily listen to the doctor that gave him what he wanted to hear, but the one that he felt the most comfortable with. So in about maybe, I don't know, 3 months, roughly, he's going to be fighting something called Dare to Dream. I'm not sure if it's been announced who his opponent will be, but he told ESPN his classic saying that in order to be the man, you got to beat the man, and he's going to prove it once again. And he also wants to show that, he was just like in a medical, like, he had some sort of medical issues where he had surgery, and he just wants to prove that age is not a death sentence. And I love Ric Flair overall. There's a couple things, it's called Dark Side of Wrestling, that I've seen about him, exposing himself to flight attendants and giant lawsuits and stuff like that. But overall, like, as an entertainer, what he's done, if you've seen the ESPN 30 for 30, the way he's like influenced culture, rap music, NBA players, NFL players, wearing the gold and the kiss stealing, limousine driving, all that stuff. Ric Flair has been a big iconic pop culture figure, and really helped wrestling get on the map as well. The other story that I wanted to mention, I was looking up health, and this is one of the odd stories because I said I want to cover things that you won't really see on ESPN. And a man, he died. Well, he didn't die actually, which is good. No, this guy, he's 66 years old, from Ireland, and he developed amnesia 10 minutes after having sex with his wife. And I guess this is something called the TGA, and unfortunately, they don't have too much information on it. It stands for some sort of amnesia. I can't remember what the TGA stands for, but according to this, he basically, after 10 minutes after he had sex with her, his memory was wiped out from the previous day, and it seems to be common between men who are 50 to 70 years old. So good thing I don't have to worry about that for many, many, many years to come. But if something were like that to happen, I guess that's a great way of getting amnesia. But I think it's called transcendent global amnesia, and apparently you get this at that age, and you can get it from strenuous physical exertion, which could be cold or hot water, which I hope when I become that age, I don't deal with that type of stuff. Emotional stress, pain, and sex, and it could last up to 24 hours. So that is pretty interesting. And thank you everybody for joining me. I started this show maybe a week ago, and I'm just covering different trends and topics, things that you won't see on ESPN. Also, I will cover things you'll see on ESPN, like the NBA Finals, because I will talk about sports and things that I'm interested in. So thank you for joining me. I also have a YouTube channel where if you watch it, you can see added footage of whatever I'm talking about, pictures, and if it's like an interview, I always put like pictures of, like, let's say I have someone who's a fighter, I'll put pictures of them fighting so you can kind of see a little bit more. And you can also see that version on Spotify. I want to thank everyone for joining too, because it's Friday, it's Memorial Weekend. Speaking of Memorial Weekend, this upcoming Monday, I'm going to be doing two shows. One is Athletic Definition, and as I was researching I did a recent review. It's called Perfect Push-Ups versus Sliders, and you can check it out. It's within the last 5 episodes. And while I was doing research for that, I found out that a Navy SEAL created uh, some fitness equipment, and I thought, oh, what a great way to pay tribute. So this upcoming Monday, I don't know the time yet, but if you follow me on Fireside, you can find out when I announce it. But I'm going to be covering some of I haven't finished reading the article, but I was reading that the military has not changed or updated their physical fitness requirements for 40 years, which I believe is like how many push-ups you can do for 2 minutes. I can't remember the third. And then you have to run 2 miles, and you have to do it all within a certain amount of time. I think they were trying to change it up so that it could be something so that it doesn't matter if you're male or female, but they were getting a lot of field results. So I want to go back and finish reading that article, and I thought it would be perfect as well for Memorial Day. And then I'm going to be talking about the Navy SEAL who created, man, he's probably become a billionaire. And I know for sure you've heard out of two out of the three. The third one, I still got to see if I even know what it is, but I thought it was fascinating. I didn't know he created it. So be sure to tune in this Memorial Day. And then I have a second show with my co-host, Ty, and that's called Drunks. And that's a beer review. It's a beer review show where we emphasize the run on drunks. It's because when you finish a marathon, there's a beer garden, you get to go celebrate. And we believe that you should earn your beer. We don't believe that you should deprive yourself. It should be a balance. So what tomorrow we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a review of 2 Hawaiian beers. My co-host is going to be going to Hawaii. So we're going to do a versus. It's Kona, and I can't remember the other beer that we're going to be doing. And I'll be updating the information, because at first we were just going to do Kona. And then I'm like, you know what? Let's do a versus. We haven't done a versus yet. So we're going to be, and you're welcome to get the beer, come up, or even if you don't have that beer, come on up, tell us about if you like the beer, if you've had it before, if you worked out that day, if you earned your beer. And that'll be at 7 p.m. Pacific time zone tomorrow. So I was reading about this story about Dennis Rodman. And everybody knows that Dennis Rodman was, if you don't know, he was an NBA player who was known for a lot of crazy stunts in the NBA. Long time ago, he was like dating Madonna. He married himself, and I think wrote a book about it. He wore like a wedding dress, and I think he ended up marrying himself. He would wear makeup during the games, and just to really get under people's skin. He was like really a defensive specialist, a rebounding specialist, and he was really good at shutting down people, really excellent in the mental game. So many people would mentally not be able to handle it. And one interesting thing that I saw a while ago is that I think he's like, I'll have to check, but his dad had like 300 kids or something. He's like, lives in the Philippines. His dad had a bunch of kids that did this story, maybe 100 kids at least. So that was fascinating to find out that he comes from like a family of 100 kids, and he made it in the NBA. But he was wild and he liked to party, and he went to the Lakers. And when he went to the Lakers, by this time he already had 5 championships. So, and Kobe was young and Shaq was young, and they were both still trying to make a name for themselves, and they were about to become huge stars. We all know what ended up happening, and Dennis Rodman couldn't handle them both. He just couldn't handle how they were. We hear a lot about. We understand now why Kobe turned out to be so dominant and great at basketball, because he was obsessed with training and working out. And Dennis Rodman's more just trying to party after 5 championships. And Shaq, he admitted he had an ego. So there was all this tension there. And Dennis Rodman and Jerry Buss, the owner of the Lakers at the time, decided to take an improv trip to Las Vegas. And I didn't get to finish reading the second article, which kind of led to that this whole story was verified, and Dennis Rodman lost like $150,000 at the table, like in 3 minutes. And really, they did it just to get away from Shaq and Kobe bickering all the time. I don't know. I thought Shaq would be kind of wild, especially after reading, that he was kind of living a double life when he cheated on his wife. And but according to him, he went to this party. Let me actually pull up the article. But he went to this party, and he said it was Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert Downey Jr., Dennis Rodman, 30 girls, and that they were all naked. Everybody was intoxicated on ecstasy, and that Shaquille O'Neal kind of saw this and just left right away, that he kind of freaked out. And to me, I think that's pretty interesting. You would think that everybody in the NBA is wild after, knowing what happened to Magic Johnson, knowing about Will Chamberlain and him claiming to sleep with 20,000 women. You would just figure that they're all like have groupies, and that they wouldn't just, especially like when it's Leonardo DiCaprio and Dennis Rodman and Robert Downey Jr. That was pretty interesting. I was like, that's a wild story. And it was originally pulled from an article written by CBS Sports. And on CBS Sports, that's where Dennis Rodman's talking about him actually losing money and what happened in the Vegas trip. And I completely forgot about this, but it's true. He went like missing for like 10 days, and he didn't report to practice. And it was because he was in Vegas, and because he was like, I don't think he lasted very long. And I don't believe that when he was there, they won a championship. I remember him winning with the Bulls and probably San Antonio. I think he went to San Antonio. I don't think it worked out there. I actually don't remember where he got his other championships, but he ended up with a total of 5. Interesting story. Still in the news all the time. He's the guy who goes to North Korea and hangs out with the North Korean leader. And also, I wanted to provide, one movie, even though I don't watch movies because I have a hard time like sitting down for like 2 hours or anything like that. The last movie that I seen at the movie theater was the one about Mr. Rogers, and I went with my mom because she wanted to watch it for Mother's Day. I love movies, but now, I've mentioned this before. Watching Bruce Lee, he would put his kids on his back and do push-ups with them, or be doing sit-ups while they were watching TV, so it would be more productive. And I really like that. So from there, I anytime I watch a sport, I like today at the 5:30 Pacific time zone when the NBA finals start, I'll be stretching, I'll be touching my toes, I'll be, moving around, getting my bands, doing shoulders. That way I'm watching sports, but I'm not just like being a straight couch potato. So I really like that. And I know people on Memorial Weekend like to watch movies. So there's this movie that I read a little bit about. I'm into martial art movies, even though, like I said, I don't watch them. I guess it came out on Netflix. It's a little bit unexpected hit. And if you're looking for a movie to watch, you could check out this movie. Let me pull it up here. All right, let's see the name of the movie. I wrote it down. I saved the article. It's called Bludgeons. That's it. Bludgeons. Yeah. I've never heard of it. I haven't even seen the preview, but according to this, it's doing really well on Netflix. If you like martial art movies, you can check it out. And when I don't even have Netflix, I had it for like 2 months just to try it. I watched documentaries on it. I watched pretty much all I do is watch the sports documentaries. There's a good one about mountain climbing that I want to watch now. So I was thinking about getting it just to watch it and then canceling it again. But I really don't watch enough of it to, I would say, justify. I think it was $10 last time. I got a month free, and it was during the pandemic, and I was bored out of my mind. Usually, I'm a big YouTube guy. I love watching YouTube. You can learn a lot on YouTube, and that's pretty much what I'm always going for. Just trying to learn something new. I'm always like learning for the new information on fitness, on things that interest me. This was a kind of a slow week as far as like fitness trends, uh, things going around. I did start reading more about virtual fitness. I've done a past show about it, and I want to do it again. So I was reading more, and instead of just kind of giving an update on those short stories, I decided I'll just do a whole show on VR, the type of workouts. It's getting more and more people are getting involved. More companies are merging. More people are, especially with Oculus. I can't remember the name of the company they merged with. But if that's what it takes, which I personally, if someone were to tell me, oh yeah, people are going to start working out virtually, people are going to start working out at home, people are going to use like, PlayStation or Xbox to get in shape, I'd be like, nah. But if that's what it takes, I'm happy about it, because this article is actually talking about, the obesity, the diabetes, high blood pressure, the just sanitary lifestyle, how it's horrible for you. So I'm going to do a whole show on that. Next week, I was supposed to have my friend Chris, who's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, MMA fighter earlier. He had to reschedule for next week, so I'll be having him on next Friday. And also next Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific time zone, I will be doing a show called NLP for Athletes. It's called NLP's Neuro Linguistic Programming. Tony Robbins is the most famous NLP practitioner, although he doesn't call it NLP. He had a falling out with the two originators of NLP, Bandler, and the other guy slips my name. His name slips my mind right now. But I'm a practitioner. I've been learning about it ever since I learned about Tony Robbins, because Tony Robbins, I found out, is from Azusa. I always thought what he did was interesting. And then when I found out about NLP, it was something like, I don't even know if this is true. And as a kid, I was always into magic. So because I was into magic, I got it. My favorite magic of all is what's called mentalism, and also close up. So close up is like when you can make things disappear in front of people's faces. I love that reaction. I think it's cool, especially where they're like, where did it go? And it's happening really in front of them. So it's not like stage magic, which it's still impressive, because I've sat in second row of stage magic and seen a helicopter appear in front of my eyes. And I have a really good idea of how all magic tricks work. I may not be able to pull them off, but when the helicopter appears in front of you, it's still very amazing. And then my second favorite is the mentalism, which is basically where you give people the perception that you could read their mind. And because of that, I learned about Houdini. I would say to all magicians is a big inspiration. But Houdini got hired by the government at one point because after World War, I believe, II, there was a bunch of mediums that in this country, there was never really any mediums, but because a bunch of people lost their sons and husbands, fathers, that they didn't have a chance to say goodbye during the war, all these people all of a sudden were mediums and could talk to the dead so that you could get closure, and they could just basically take your money. And then the government wanted to know for themselves. So they offered this giant reward to anyone who actually could prove that they had some special abilities. And Houdini was on the board. Houdini exposed everyone and proved that, that there's nothing there. And then when I heard about NLP, from my magic knowledge, my mentalism knowledge, I'm like, I'm not even quite sure if it's true or not. So I had to go. It's typically super expensive. I do have a discount code if you want to use it. The one I went to, I think, was like $100 or $200. Normally these things are like 4,000, 5,000. So if you do want to find out for yourself, you can use that discount code. But yeah, I had to figure it out. And then, I'm always into, sports and seeing how I can use it for peak performance. So then I found out, Tony Robbins is teaching Serena Williams and other, working with other sports people using these different techniques. So right away, I've been kind of like thinking about doing this show for a while, but I started seeing two guys in particular on YouTube. One of them has a pretty big following. And the first thing he talks about is how he's a martial artist. And so he's going to talk about the jab, and he's explaining about NLP and and to me, a jab really isn't part of a martial art. It's boxing. And so I'm not really quite sure if he's real. And then the jab he showed was really, really poor. So I think he's a phony. And then the other guy that was talking, but then who knows, when you're recording, I may say things in error. So I don't want to judge too hard. The other guy was trying to tell you how to use NLP for basketball. And he didn't even know how much the shots were worth. He was like, I don't know. Is it 2 points, 3 points, four? How can you try to teach someone when you don't even really know the full concept? So I thought, man, there's a lot of bad information out there on NLP and peak performance. So I'm not going to show any techniques. I'm going to talk about a couple of techniques. I'm going to talk about the history, how it got there. And then in the future, we'll see, depending on how popular it is. I want to bring on some NLP masters so we can talk about more. There's one, for example, interesting technique. It's like getting in the zone or getting in flow state or playing basketball where you could like literally get the ball, throw it like behind your back without looking, and it's going to go in. It's like you're just on fire that day. You're just in that zone. And Kobe Bryant was really, even though, as far as I know, and I've been trying to find out if he was an NLP practitioner, I don't believe so, but he did things like to the point. There's a great story where Shaquille O'Neal, and actually does it on TV. And I always link everything. So everything I talked about today, the news, articles, I'll link it on the show notes. But Shaq is talking about Kobe during practice when he first started. I think he said he's like 19 years old, and he's right there in full sweat with no ball while the coach is trying to show something on film. And Kobe's like dribbling between his legs with an imaginary ball, like moving it. So Kobe is visualizing it and he's doing it. He's putting himself in that moment to get that sensation, to get that feeling. And then he did a lot of things that, in my opinion, are like, what you do in NLP. And I think because of that, and I think we all do that a lot because part of NLP is modeling, where you take the best. But I noticed, and this is something prior that I knew before even I knew what NLP was, the best of the best always study the best, because success leaves clues. If you look at Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or hear about Michael Jordan, any of the greats, Jerry Rice, they're always studying film. They're studying what the other people did in the past. They're studying what the greats did and how they do it, and what type of mentality, what type of state were they in? What were their rituals? What did they work out? Kobe used to like just bug Michael Jordan. Well, what about this? Or what about that? All the time asking him this and that and sending him texts like random times. So that, if you want to be great, you almost have to be obsessive. But, if you could use certain techniques to help you maybe not use as much time or help you get into flow state quicker. Like one of them is kind of how to slow down time. Basically, if you could, see the ball coming a little bit faster, a little bit slower, like everything to you is coming slow motion, but it's still real speed, or, a baseball, anything like that. Or to have the confidence that you're not going to strike out, or you're not going to get knocked out, or you're not going to get choked out, whatever, using these techniques for that. So I hope to bring some insight. I haven't really heard too many people, and the people that there's plenty of people talking about NLP and proper NLP, but when it comes to sports, I really haven't found too many people, and I'm keep looking for more information, because I know Tony Robbins worked with a bunch of athletes, so it's kind of hard to find the information on what they actually did. I know a little bit on Serena, but Haven't had much luck, but you could be sure to join me next Thursday, and I'll give you a nice 1 hour, breakdown of NLP, how it started, everything that I know about it. And if you're interested in learning more, you're more than welcome to. So as I mentioned, not much news this week going on. I looked for a bunch of, jiu-jitsu, boxing stories, but it was kind of a slow week, maybe because of Memorial. But like I said, you can join me this Monday, double shows, Athletic Definition and Drunks. And you never know. Tomorrow, I'm excited. I get to play basketball again with my nephews and my son. And then after that, if I feel inspired enough, maybe I'll do another show because I have lots of ideas and haven't had much time. Been working extra this week because my coworker had got the whole virus thing, and so she got sick, and so I had to cover extra hours. So last week I did 5 episodes, and this week this is my second episode. So for me, as far as my podcasting, I'm behind, and maybe I'll make one up tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. I hope you enjoy your Memorial Weekend. Thank you to all the veterans. Thank you to all the listeners on Twitch, on Facebook, Twitter, everybody in the audience. I appreciate you. Let's see here. Woody, Wadebot, Trish, Martha, Lily, who was in here earlier. And thank you, everybody, as well. Like I mentioned on the simulcast, I will see you this Monday. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. This is Coach Ray Z, Athletic Definition. I'm out.